topic, food. Food is my love language, and if you know me, you know that I'm really passionate about postpartum nutrition and nourishment. I actually started as a postpartum doula via a cookbook. So when I was about 6 months postpartum, I had a couple of friends having babies and I was like, oh, I've heard about this new book coming out, The First 40 Days. It's a cookbook. Cool, interesting. I'd been the wellness editor at Marie Claire. I was really interested in this idea of like functional food and food as medicine. And so when I wanted to get that cookbook, I read it and was amazed by how it's from the Chinese perspective, how the Chinese really use food as medicine, how they'd use protein to rebuild tissues in the postpartum woman, how they would, encourage fatty acids for, really nutritious breast milk, and how they would use herbs as a kind of nervine tonics. This stuff really gets me excited. And when I read about that and also read about the role of postpartum doulas, which I never heard before, I knew that I wanted in. I think food can be a really good gateway into caring for ourselves. And it's also something that people who may not have a full understanding of postpartum do understand that food is helpful, right? Like we all kind of know that, even though we've forgotten what kind of food to take to new parents, generally, I think it's most people remember that they should be taking some food to new parents. So I really feel like if we can harness the power of food, and it's not complicated. Like some of it you might be like, whoa, I've never heard of ashwagandha or reishi, but a lot of it is quite basic stuff. It's just about understanding some principles around the type of food that's really good for us in postpartum, why that is, and what our kind of nutrient needs are. So what our nutrient needs are is a kind of a good place to start. Our nutrient needs are a lot in postpartum. We have more nutrient needs when we're breastfeeding than we did when we were pregnant. So I know that for a lot of us, myself included, when you're pregnant, it's like, I'm gonna, my body is a temple, I'm building my baby. And then postpartum rolls around and you're living off toast and chocolate. And there's nothing wrong with toast and chocolate, but we can really make our food nutrient dense and make it super functional and do ourselves a really big favor by doing that. So we need about 300 to 500 calories extra a day when we're breastfeeding. And that's just because our bodies are working really damn hard to feed our babies and recover. So we're repairing tissues, we are rebuilding skin cells, we are making milk for a whole other human. There is a lot going on. And don't forget that our brains are working really hard. So they've shown that brains need a lot more fuel during postpartum too. And that goes back to this idea that we are really rewiring our neural pathways in this incredible period of neuroplasticity going through baby brain, which can be a really positive thing. One of the most common postpartum deficiencies is iron. So you hear a lot about iron deficiencies in pregnancy. Postpartum, it's a real risk too. So we really want to be focusing a lot on iron-rich foods, which is why I'm a massive fan of liver in postpartum. Before you go, oh, I get it. I was never one to be like into liver or anything, but I love pate, chicken liver pate. And it's really easy to just sneak chicken livers into stuff like bolognese, which I'll be teaching you how to make my amped up version of bolognese. You can absolutely take capsules if you really can't stomach it. I don't find chicken liver has a very strong taste. I can't do beef liver, but I can do chicken liver. So those are some things to bear in mind. The other thing to think about is nutrient robbery. So when our stores of nutrients are kind of nice and full, it's like that idea of you can't pour from an empty cup. When it's full and overflowing, we can give plenty to the baby. If we don't have enough nutrient stores, then the baby, our body is going to prioritize the baby, and it means it'll take the nutrients out of our stores. It'll leach calcium out of our bones. So there was this old idea that you'd lose a tooth for every baby that you have. That kind of comes from that. But it doesn't have to be like that. We want to really look after our nutrition, and using nutrition, you can actually have an incredibly nourished postpartum that actually leaves you coming out of it feeling healthy and vital and really energized, other than the sleep deprivation. So in terms of what types of food that we want for postpartum, there are some principles that come from cultures from around the world. So some cultures, there's many, but I'll just name a few who have really strong postpartum cultures, is the Chinese culture, Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic, which is an Indian based philosophy, and nutrition, you know, it's all kind of all in one. Those are two that I've been really heavily influenced by. But when you look at cultures from all around the world, I'm talking about, you know, Jewish culture, I'm talking about Greek culture, I'm talking about everything. You see that these cultures often have things in common in terms of what they feed their new mothers. These are sort of special dishes that are given to new mothers, and they are warming, and easily digestible, particularly for the first few weeks. So we know that our organs are all shifting back into place. Our digestion's quite funky. Maybe our appetite's not amazing to start with. And that's why food that's really easy to digest and just quite simple can be very helpful. The idea behind the warm and warming is because these cultures have kind of a common belief that when you're pregnant, you double your blood volume. We know this. And obviously, you know, you're running hot, you've got this baby in your belly. And then the baby comes out, and there's this belief that you're kind of windy, you're empty, you're full of vata, which is the Ayurvedic term for sort of being windy. I'm not talking about gassy, you might be gassy too, but I mean like sort of a bit empty. So what they want to do is, before you get kind of cold, you warm the mother. So we're talking about warming the mother with food. You never have like iced water. Like to have a raw salad would be sacrilegious in Chinese medicine terms. We have food that is warm. So we have like warm drinks. We have things like soups, stews, porridges, congees, those kind of foods that you'd almost like give to someone who had been ill for some time. This is not because pregnancy or birth is an illness at all, but it's because it's just easier on the body, which is working so hard to heal. So warming and easily digestible, and then hitting those nutrients. So hitting up the iron, hitting up the fiber to help with our sluggish digestions, hitting up the fats. We know that fat is so important for our hormones and for making the most nutrient dense milk that we possibly can. Now, I think it's really important to note on that you don't have to have the perfect postpartum diet. Excuse me while I sip my coffee. You can have a coffee in postpartum. I don't want you to come away from this course going, oh my God, I didn't have chicken liver today, I'm fucked. No, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's helpful to eat this way, but it's not going to matter if you're like, oh, God damn it, I really just want those Tim Tams. Have the Tim Tams. You've got to eat what makes you happy. You know, we talked about oxytocin and doing stuff that makes you happy and that brings you joy. We'll talk about that a little bit more down the track, but like, let's go for food that makes us happy too. Comfort food, bearing in mind these principles, but you don't have to go for the, you know, traditional red date and goji berry tea if you don't like it. If you love hot chocolates, like let's do that. I'll show you my dry mix for a really nutrient rich hot chocolate too later. But please don't feel like you're screwing up if you're not eating perfectly. That's not what this is about. We just want to try and remember these principles and do our bodies a favor. We also know that breast milk is influenced by our food that we eat. And we can really optimize our breast milk by having lots of fats and proteins and fatty acids. But no matter what you eat, your breast milk is going to be really nutrient rich for your baby. So, you know, if you've had a day where everything's gone to shit and you've just had toast and coffee and some chocolate, like, please don't be like, oh my God, I've screwed up my child and they're not going to get what they need. No, That's not what this is about. But I think having the knowledge that, oh, good, if I have, ghee and lots of beautiful pastured eggs, which are 5 times higher in omega-3s than, regular eggs, I just think that knowledge is power. And if we can do our bodies a favor, we're actually helping our future selves. So do something for your future self.